have my training. Being a data scientist is something at the background, and that is your database design. There's no way you can do well in the field of being a data scientist that we don't need to talk about your database design. And in the industry, we call it analytics data store. Okay, I would like to just explain to us one of a real life scenario of setting up a database or setting up a database warehouse, or let's say designing a database architecture. The first thing is we have what we call audit and the likes. My, I'm very sorry, my network is failing, but I will try. I'm just trying to make sure I'm online. So apology for that break. A data warehouse. The data analytics. Or if I'm communicating, please. Okay, there's the first level of data base management, and that is what we call our staging. So when you are your data warehouse. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Okay. So as I was saying, I said we can discover that all the data sets we work with, they are coming from different data sources. That is the industry experience. In the industry, data sets will
Hello, sorry. Can you guys hear him clearly? I think his network is breaking, so I just want to be sure that it's only me.
It is network, I guess. Can still hear it clearly.
Okay. I think he's going to reconnect. I think it's out already. He should reconnect. Should reconnect now. Hello, Issa. Can you hear me? Issa, can you hear me? Abdul Kabir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So I think what's wrong?
Hello, sorry for the break in transmission.
All right, ID, you can go on, sir.
Okay. I just hope I have a better network now, and as much as I can, I will try to speed up. Okay. So as I was saying, I said something like the importance of SQL lies strongly when you are creating what they call your analytics data store. I can remember like 5 years ago, I met during the first data science Nigeria bootcamp, I met a lady, and the lady said, she said, SQL never what she really meant by that statement. So I never understood what she meant by in couple of years time SQL language will be the most sought after. Now I now discover that currently with my experience, 80% of what we do in analytics revolve around SQL, because now we are trying to query big data, and we want to do a lot of things: data manipulation, data aggregation. You want to create your analytics data store. You can't do all those things without proper knowledge of your structured query language. I can tell you, when you know how to make use of your structured SQL, then when you are building model, you so so I said something. I said, with your proper improve your machine learning models, or probably even deep learning models. Though sometimes you feel like deep learning models doesn't require
So, hello guys. I know you can. I believe you can hear me, right? Hello, can you guys hear me? Richard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, he's currently having a bad network. Switch his network to another one real soon and get come back online. So it seems like he's still online, but he's trying to switch his network. So before he's going to come back online, first of all, let's introduce ourselves properly. So okay, let me just start from Richard. Richard, can you tell us about yourself?
Okay, my name is Richard Alonso. I studied national chemistry from the university. I'm currently learning data analytics from up to analytics. Thank you.
So if you are should I just maybe state what to hear? That's a very short one. That's a very short one. So you should tell us. You should tell us what maybe what programming language you are learning or you like to learn, or and what skills, soft skills, hard skills, what actually interests you. Just tell me about yourself. Like maybe you're in an interview now. So I just asked you. I'm the employer. I'm the employer. I'm asking you about yourself. So tell me about yourself.
Oh, since this is a program, let's try to be more conscious. It's not conjoined time for now. Anyway, so I
You could
told you my name
just
is
summarize it.
okay, my name is Richard. And for technology, too, I'm familiar with uh, MySQL, Excel, and Power BI. I'm trying to focus more on Power and MySQL. Uh, just have background in business management in this sector, and there's not very much for me to talk about. So let me just pass it to this person. Okay.
Okay, Richard. Thank you. Um, Benga Talabi, can you please help us introduce yourself? So, Ellen Benga, can you hear me? Can you please give a short introduction of yourself if you can hear me? Probably Benga is not physically with us. Okay, if you can hear me, please can you just talk about yourself in just 1 minute or 2 minutes before our industry expert joins the class back or switches the network? Yes, sir, can you hear me? Okay, Eviola, can you please you want to introduce yourself? Eviola. Hello, Eviola, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, can you just give us a short introduction? Let's talk about yourself.
It's very short. I'm Eriolua. I studied religious studies at Marquette University, and I recently just I I want to add to my knowledge actually for the data science and stuff. And I choose a skill because at least I feel I'll be able to relate to this well for a start compared to every other language around. Okay, and it's a very short one. Was that short enough?
That's good. That's good. So I believe Kabir has already done that. I don't know whether he still wants to maybe reintroduce himself to everyone. So if that's the case,
My name is Abdulkabir Ojulari. I work in business science. I have master degree in business science. And then I've been practicing for more than 15 years now as a web developer, as a data analyst. So I use SQL, I use Excel, I use Tableau, I use Python, I use R. And okay, that's me.
all right. Thank you, Abdulkabir.
You're welcome.
So I think our industry expert is back on. So,
Yeah, I just want to suggest if we can actually share a slide. So that will be better, at least for those who are not even seeing the SQL on the data warehouse and talking about the data aggregation and stuff like that. No, it's just like you are speaking without seeing the person who's talking to you. You know how it looks, right?
Okay, Saidot, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can share with us. I believe you can share your screen. So you can help us out.
Yes, as regard
Saidi, maybe you should speak up. Can't hear you. I can't hear you, Saidi. I don't know.
okay.
Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you, but your voice it's like you are sounding far away. All right, I think we're better now.
All right. Okay. So I said I would before the end of the class I will share a document so that we can have especially to those of us that maybe are new to getting something like that. So I will share one and walk us through. And now there's something I said before. Now I said a database architecture. So every database architecture or database design, there's always a part of your staging environment. This is where you bring all data sets together, and you have your analytics data store where you try to get your aggregated tables that will be used for your analytics. So in that regard, that is where our knowledge of SQL now comes in. I can tell you that talking about big data analytics, you can't run away from SQL, and which is very vital. Mr. Sonny can bear witness in the industry where we work. 80% of what we do revolves around SQL language, because we talk to different databases and we try to derive variables, do a lot of analysis. I can tell you that even 90% of with analytics with you make just SQL. So what you see us, no matter how complex the report will look like, what we do is we use is SQL. So the only time we go into machine learning is if you want to do anything predictive. But most of the time, there's always the noise outside about building models. I can tell you, you can't build a good model without a strong knowledge of your SQL language. For instance, now most of the time when you go to Kaggle competition or you go to Zindi, they ask you to build model and they give you data set. Those data sets, there are some guys that work behind it to make that data set real. So, and you want to know what happens at the back end. It is lots and hundreds of work, hundreds of SQL language that aggregates the data to what you are seeing. And that is the beauty of SQL, and that is what is making us relevant. I can tell you, if you know how to make use of SQL, it is easier for you to get a job. I can tell you, it is very easy for you to get a job because they will tell you, okay, do you know how to use SQL? You say yes, fine. Because they believe with that you can beat your data. So I see something like there's always say a caption. They say when you, I think there's a quote. They say when you torture your data well enough, it's going to speak. It's going to confess. Now, do we ever think of which tool do we use in beating our data? How do we torture our data to speak? It is not just taking the logarithm of a particular variable or taking the exponential or trying to combine those variables together. It is when you know how to get derived variables from data that relates to the case study you are working with. And that is how you beat your data. And that is what we spend most of our time doing at the industry. So in a nutshell, SQL is very important to us. And I never regretted going fully into the knowledge. As much as I know how to use other languages, but I don't think I enjoy any other language as much as I enjoy SQL. Sincerely, I can do almost in quotes anything that comes to my mind with SQL. Like, okay, you want to query this data because in the industry, our customers will just tell us. They just come and tell us, okay, we need this. They give us the problem. They don't care about what goes behind the scene. All they care for is to get it done. I can tell you, anytime we are giving them the answer, we provide the answer to them through SQL. Because I've seen and I've learned that any analytic problem can be derived with a strong knowledge of SQL. I think I've worked with SQL and I feel like it's not being proud, but anything that relates to analytics is different from building models. What I mean by analytics is when you are trying to interrogate data, when you discover that something happened and you want to say, why did this thing happen? So because there's the part of analytics that okay, we have descriptive analysis, fine, but it's a point where you answer the question, why is this thing happening, and you're able to give the answer to say this is why this is happening. That is what they call analytics, because that is what gives value to your customer. And most of the time we think data science is machine learning. No. Initially, I also had that mindset that, okay, when you want to talk about data science, talk about machine learning, you talk about deep learning, you talk about NLP, but nobody talks about SQL. And that's where most of us are missing it. So we tackle data science in what they call, in quotes, the sophisticated level. But the simplest level that is highly important, we neglect it. And that's the place of SQL. With your strong understanding of SQL, you can provide answer to any analytics question. And the question is, why is my price dropping? Why is things changing around me? Sorry for the break in transmission. So why did my price goes down? Why are my customer churning? Why is things changing around me? So all those why, machine learning model will not tell you why. Machine learning model will just tell you this customer will not transact. Okay, now let me tell you one beautiful thing that I did last year. We went to a competition, like just a small competition, at Access Bank, and they gave us two machine learning model. They said, okay, we should develop a loan scoring algorithm, and they said we should develop a loan scoring algorithm, and we should also develop a model to predict customer inactivity. So we have almost 9 teams of at least 5 members each. Everybody started, because guys are used to machine learning, used to Python, and everybody, they're just busy, like, wow, oh, loading data. Like, I was like, wow. I just told my team, I said, guys, we are not going to concentrate on machine learning. We are not going to concentrate our energy on trying to build a model. Let's answer the question: why are customers going to churn? What the industry guys want to know. Don't come and tell me that this customer is, you can predict that, okay, build a machine learning model of 85% accuracy, 90% accuracy, that, okay, I know this customer is going to churn, or probably this customer has the likelihood of not transacting next month. Yes, you have a model to build. You build a model for that. But the industry guys don't care about those things. They want to take action. And when they want to take action, they won't take action based on just one singular value that a customer is not going to transact. They want to go further to see why is it not going to transact. What are the variables? The IST machine learning will tell you is say variables that are of importance. Like, okay, you run checking variables that best explain your dependent variable. Machine learning will do that. But to some level, machine learning will not tell you why. Machine learning will not tell you interactions between variables. Machine learning, I understand that in some levels, you can, depending on how you can even work on your machine learning, you can say, okay, I want to get interaction. I know when you are building, say, a linear regression model, and you want to do interaction in R, you can just put, okay, into the model, and the model will help you estimate the interaction and get the effect of the interaction. That's fine. The next thing is going to give you is the coefficient. I say, okay, the coefficient is significant. Why is it significant? Machine learning will not tell you. But in the industry, we don't care. We know it's significant. Why is it significant? Okay, it is not significant. Why is it not significant? If it is not significant, then something happened. So for you to answer the question in the industry, why, in any data analytic world or analytics job, your understanding of SQL is very important. I don't have a problem building models, and people can easily build model. People can easily build model. You can copy a code from somebody and paste it, just fine tune it, and you build your model, and it will be accurate. But when you come to analytics depends on SQL, and they do say data science is a art. The art in data science comes from SQL. It's your knowledge for you to query data. If this happens, how do I make use of my join? How do I make use of my left outer join? How do I make use of my decode in a way that is going to answer the question? How do I make use of my union? How do I make use of my query? There's something called query in query, whereby you have a nested query. How do you think it through? How do you transform your data from transaction data to a columnar data, whereby it is usable for you for machine learning? So all those things anchored on the knowledge of SQL And to wrap it up, with a strong knowledge of SQL, you do well in the world of analytics. I I I I know very sure that you do well in the world of analytics, and it will make you stand out, and you be indispensable. I know some guys in the place I work. Okay, one of the projects we are supporting, that guy needs to is one of the staff in the company we are providing support to. When he understands what we are doing, he has no choice to go and learn SQL, and now he's doing well because they see value in SQL every day. You can't exhaust SQL, and it can't be out of vogue. Like you can't get to a level where they say, okay, they don't need SQL again. Well, I can't say maybe in the next 10 years, maybe. I don't know what will now happen. Maybe it will not have an AI whereby I just speak to data, maybe. But for now, as the generation we are in the next 2-3 years, SQL will be highly relevant, and we can see that it is being integrated to even the Adobe distributed file system, the Adobe framework. As you can see, we have Hive, we have Hive query language to tell you that it can only transit, but it will still be a structured query language that will be used in querying data to get refined data. So thank you. That's my little word to us this evening, that SQL is indispensable, and when you know it and you practice it, you discover that you'll be indispensable, and it's going to win many things for you. You know how to do a lot of things. I can't exhaust the list of the advantage of structured query language. I can't. But for now, sincerely, you are in the right place and you are taking the right decision to have a grounded knowledge about structured query language. Thank you. I don't know if there's any question.
So thank you, Saido. Thank you, Saidi. You have really done justice to most of the things we have expected. Now, let me say something. When I started, when I, when I was learning, when I was learning back then in school, I was in Python, uh, Python for data science, do a lot of things. No, I must confess that there are a lot of things you can do with Python. There are a lot of things you can do with Python, and you can really do. So I heard about SQL. I heard about SQL. SQL you can do. I didn't really know. I didn't understand. I didn't really understand what SQL is until I got to the industry. When I was learning SQL on W3 school, I was just saying Celesta form. So there's a way in W3 school they say, oh yeah, start is it run example or something. So if I click on that thing and I do select this thing, then I'll just see the results. So I was just following like as if you are just reading for exam. I didn't really see the picture of it. I was just learning like, okay, I say SQL is useful. So I was just learning, but I didn't really understand it. Like, though it might seem like it was just seem like I was just cramming one kind of language. I was just cramming. When you just they tell you something, this thing is very easy. Go and learn it. So I was just learning it. It was when I got to the industry and I was now doing that semester. I was now seeing order by. I was not seeing goodbye. Before I even understood goodbye and joins, before I understood goodbye and joins, like, okay, when you join, you have to do, or when you're doing aggregating function, using aggregating function, you have to do goodbye and all of that. It was when I got to the industry before I understood this stuff. Because me learning on W3 school, though it was a very good platform to learn, but I didn't really understand the concept. I didn't really understand what SQL could do that. So until I got to the industry. So So before I proceed, I think Richard wants to ask a question. Please, Richard, you can unmute yourself and ask a question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Edward. I've learned a lot from you today. So before I proceed, I first must commend Mr. Emmanuel for his work at Orbit. So I want to ask, as you said, Mr. Emmanuel, you learnt more why you got on the job, like from the industry. So before getting to the industry, what would you recommend? Like what material would you recommend for us to upskill ourselves, to gain more knowledge in SQL, apart from what we are learning in class, like the self-development in our own parts? Because most people tell you like there's a limit to what you can teach you in class. You have to go back to the drawing table and learn again. So based on your own industry experience, what would you recommend for us to upskill ourselves more in SQL? Thank you.
Sir Edward, would you like to? I guess you are listening to the. Can you please,
Yes.
maybe you have something you have to say about it?
Okay. Yes. Okay. So in that regard, so I want to reiterate the question that okay, aside what we learn, what are we going to recommend to upskill for you to upskill yourself? Sincerely, the only way you can upskill yourself is having the industry experience, because in reality there are less data that needs you have less question that requires data say data aggregation outside industry, because in outside industry you can't have access to say the transaction record of say maybe 100,000 rows or say 1 million rows. You might not be able to get access to that, and you might not be having access to what they call the 3 V's of big data, say variety and velocity. We have the variety, velocity, and the other V. Emmanuel, remind me of the last V.
Yeah,
Volume.
volume and light. Yeah.
Yes, volume. So all those 3 V's, you might not have access to them outside the industry. So, and until you have access to those kind of data, you might not be able to enjoy it. But it is always good you get that knowledge. You get that knowledge. And I can't, please, even if you can go for unpaid intern, whereby you can have access to data and whereby they query data a lot. They ask questions, they ask data questions a lot. Please, it will be good for you to go. So I would say what you can use to upscale your service, go get at least an intern job whereby you can learn. That learning is important. So because when you don't see it, you might not be able to understand. SQL is not theory. You might not understand the real data mining. You might not understand the real data aggregation or data cleaning until you get to the industry. So I will advise that you just go a bit further to look for where you can get at least an intern program whereby you so that you can have access to this data and you see how it works. So when you have access to those data, then you can now go back to your W3 school to learn. So me, I would prefer you see the data before you learn. So if you learn before seeing the data, you think you know, whereas you don't know. Though all of us started like that. Yes, we started like okay, and I can tell you, we all thought we know. If you learn with any platform outside the industry, you think you know. It's just a thought of knowledge. It's not that you really know. Because when you get back to the industry, you discover you don't know, and you just need to go back to read. So that is that. So that's my little advice.
So, Edward, that part you just said, I like that part. Oh, he said when you don't see the data and you learn, you think you know. You think you know. So that was what actually happened. And I was then on W3 school, semester, do this, and I was just seeing the result. So you think you know, but in real life you don't actually know, because you are just writing something, but you are seeing the result, but it is not what you think. Until you get the data, you will now ask yourself question. No, there's difference in writing something and you are seeing results, and asking yourself question. Now it's just like, okay, I told you to prove that 2 plus 2 is 4, right? So if you should write 2 plus 2 and you see 4, it means you know that what you are doing is correct. Now if you don't ask question and you just go to Python and you just type 2 plus 2 and you see 6, because you are seeing the result, that doesn't mean that what you are doing is actually right. But because something came out, then you think, you are doing well. No, you are not doing well. So the thing is, you want to ask a question. You want to ask a question. You are asking a question, and you want to get answer. Now, there's something I used to do in school that I'm very good at. If you should give me a problem now and you provide the answer, I'm going to find a way to get to that answer. So the thing is that, first of all, if you have data, now another way you can learn is that if you have data somewhere, okay, maybe some kind of simulated data, you can look at the data. What question can you ask from this data? Now, so think of a question, write it down. Think of so many questions, write it down. Now write a query that's going to answer that question. If that question is being answered, then you know that you are learning. You can also learn that way. So you can ask yourself questions, then write SQL query to answer those questions. So because you are the one asking those questions, you already know the kind of result you should get. You should know, okay, so this is something else. So if you write something, also the knowledge you should also need to get is how you can validate your results. So if you have a data set that has like 50 million records, for example, now, and they ask you question, and you wrote the query, and sometimes, most of the time, you have to write subquery, or what Mr. Idol called query in query. So you have to write subquery. If you should write subquery and it gives you a result, sometimes you are cooking beans. Like, seriously. Because if you don't know how to validate the results, then you think what you are doing is actually right. Sometimes you write query, you think that you are doing the right thing, whereas you have missed out something in somewhere. So if you don't know how to also validate your query results, then you think you are actually doing the right thing, whereas you are doing the wrong thing. I don't know. That's what I will have to say. You have to know how to also validate the query and the results of your query, because sometimes if you think you are doing the right thing, whereas you are actually doing otherwise. I think maybe Saigo, that we have something to say as regards that before we move on.
Okay. I think you've said you've given the best answer to that, and that is as a data analyst, and what validates your knowledge about structured query itself is when you're able to translate problem into code and code into answer, validated answers. Like you said, you might write a query and we'll call it beans. So, and one interesting thing is that you can write a query and you are cooking beans and you serve the client and they will eat it. And it is maybe after a week, they now discover that the query you wrote that day was really wrong. So it goes beyond you writing query and you getting results. It now goes to you being able, I think that's another level. I think that's a level of proficiency whereby when you run a query, even when the query returns record, you're able to debug it and say, okay, this value should not be. And that is when you've gotten a matured analytic mind. So scrutinize your data even without a third party. So to wrap it, we need to go beyond the level of we thinking we know to the real knowledge. And where we can get that is the real industry. But it is always good we start from where we are starting from. I won't say you despise where you are coming from or what you are doing now. No. This is we all started. I think I did my my Oracle class maybe like 8 years ago. I did it then. Though I was busy cramming. Oh my later my class teacher was gonna say, okay, just do this, and I've done a lot of online courses like and I'll pass, but when I'm in the industry is far different. We starting from there is not a crime. That tells us the select star from a table. That tells us the basic select star where. That tells us when we use our group by, our having functions, and the likes. So that is that in a nutshell. Thank you.
So, okay, before we proceed, is there anyone that wants to ask maybe question? Wants to ask this part question before we proceed. So, if you have a question, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question in 1 minute, please.
Sorry, which data warehouse that is free or probably open source?
Okay, yeah, we have MySQL. MySQL is open source, so it's free. So, but yeah, I think that is one of the most open source, and that's the largest open source DB for now. Okay, have I answered the question?
Yeah, I said because you didn't answer, you didn't mention it. That's why I had to say it so that people can actually know that they can get MySQL for free.
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Yeah. So you can download MySQL for free. You can practice, get hands-on practice on my SQL. So I'll send one slide for you. Is it on this? Is it? Let me check. I can't really see anything. There's this site. Hold on. I'm trying to check. I think I have it. So I will send this guy to you now. So I will share a particular website here. So this website I'm sharing here is just like is the difference between this website and W3 is that this is going to help you learn. It's going to upskill you. So you know W3 is like you can say, okay, how do you select all the columns in a particular? Okay, they'll write it. So this one you can learn. They will also give you exercise, like a kind of they give you a problem. How do you do this? How do you do that? Then they will try to test you. Okay, if you write a query that can answer this question, stuff like that. So you can do that on this platform here. So that is that. By the way, it's on MySQL for free. Load table into it, create database, and do all those things. So it's open source. And before you go, so can you talk to us about the importance of automation in SQL generally? So the importance of automation, stored procedures, stored function, events. I don't know what you call it in Oracle, maybe job scheduler. I think we have something like that. So in MySQL, we call it events. Like like a job schedule, how you can, okay, maybe you want to perform a particular task, maybe daily, maybe weekly. It's going to do it automatically without you logging in or something like that, as long as the server is running. So can you please enlighten us on that?
Okay. Thank you. So so anybody in the IT world, automation is something we all are used to. But as the advantage abounds, so the disadvantage abounds. Imagine you are automating the wrong script. To me, before we automate any job, or probably we set up any stored procedure and we put it on automation, we'll make sure the script inside the procedure is well written and it is error free. But as soon as you are sure of having a clean script, especially for ETL, currently now, on one of our projects, not even one, on like 2, 3 or 4 of our projects, we have automated procedures, and it makes your job very easy. So when there's no way you can deal with big data and you won't automate your procedure, especially when you have a routine job, stuff that needs to run maybe daily or monthly or weekly. There's no way you won't need a stored procedure, and it makes the job very easy for you, especially daily spooling or daily ETL. Currently now in one of our projects, we have our stored procedure that runs it from extraction to aggregation to the final table. So it runs like almost 6 stop procedures to update one table. But it is that single table, when updated, that the guy running basic analytics can now run on. So stored procedure is very important, and everybody will always talk about automating the process, because when you automate a process, it makes the job easier for you to do, less human effort, and you can easily track when you know there's an error, and when you feel like, okay, you want to update it, updating will be very simple and everything will be there at your fingertips. So it's something we must also keep in mind, that we must also learn how to automate our processes. As after we having a well standardized script, we write it as a procedure. Then the next thing is automating it. I can tell you, if you want to do anything manual, you want to waste your time, precious time. There are processes whereby if you want to run it, it runs for say 5 hours. And let's assume you want to run it manually and you get to office around, say, you get to office around 8 o'clock and you initiate it at 8. So the next 5 hours you get the result by 1 o'clock. But that same procedure, you can initiate it by 1 a.m. at midnight. And the process will initiate on its own as long as the server is on. The process runs, it runs till 5 o'clock. So when you get back to work by 8 a.m., you've saved yourself 5 hours already. So automation saves us a lot of time, especially the night. To me, with automation, I maximize the night. Anything I need to do, and I know, okay, I need to set this job. I have some scripts in specific order. I push all of them to a procedure and I initiate them, and they run sequentially. And by morning, I get my job done. So we can't overemphasize automation. It is a skill, a soft skill we must all add to our SQL knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, that is very important, especially in this era, that COVID-19 era, whereby you don't necessarily need to be on site. Even if you want to be on site, they have to regulate. So some people are said, okay, you can come on site maybe 2 times in a week, 3 times in a week, and you know that there are some things you have to get done. It has to be done maybe on a daily basis. So how do you overcome that challenge? It's by automating your task. So what you're supposed to do, particularly maybe you have something by 12 p.m. or by 12 p.m. By 12 p.m. you need to run a particular procedure, you want to do some particular process. So you having to automate those processes is very important. You don't need to be there physically. So as long as the server is on, as Mr. Adola said, those processes are going to run on their own. So it's just you to provide the script. Then so it's just the script. So first of all, you have to start from the basic. Should I say the basic fundamental? Yes, the script. You have to understand how you can create a working script. So it is when you understand how to write a script. That's when you talk about maybe stock procedure, maybe stock function, and then you now talk about automating them. So if you don't understand the script itself, then it means that your automation is just doing rubbish. Your automation is cooking beans, as Mr. Edward has said. So first of all, you first understand how to write scripts. If your script is not working the way it's supposed to work, and you go into automation, it means you are automating rubbish. You want to start automating rubbish. So you want to start using nonsense. So that's basically what it means. That's basically just like I don't know what I want to the public example. So I guess you guys all get the drill. I guess you guys all get the drill anyways. So to before we move to the next session, because we're wrapping up soon anyways. Any question at this moment? Any question before we go to the next place? Any question? So you have another session tomorrow, same time, 3 to 5. So anybody want to ask a question in 1 minute?
Okay, let me ask one more question. So in the spirit of validation, one of my mentor in the industry, he said something about reading Oracle documentation from the beginning to the end. So I want to know, is something that you recommend? Because he said something like trying to help her a lot. Because, for example, now Oracle doesn't have much of their materials online. It just have their documentation, and that's what most industry use in Nigeria. So you recommend reading the documentation of Oracle?
Okay. So regarding the documentation, yes. Um. All documentation, any software or any application, their documentation is always helpful because they understand what they did and the possible error you can have. But one thing is that you only read documentation when you are in the industry. And you read documentation, you consult documentation when you get to a crossroad and you need clarification. That's why you fall back to documentation. You can't, if you are not in the industry, reading documentation will just be as if you are reading a textbook and you are reading it for no use. But when you're in the industry, documentation is what we all consult and we go back to. Like there are some applications that maybe their data dictionary is like, say, 500 pages. When we get issues, we fall back to the document. But if you read those kind of documents without being in the industry, you might just be knowing it for just mere knowledge sake. That's fine. But it is always useful. It is 80% more useful when you read it as a consulting book. And that's what documentation is. You consult documentation. You can't just see, oh, this stuff, they are practical. So you can't say, okay, let me just read it to cram and no. Then you can read to know, fine, at least have basic knowledge. But it is best you read from industry to document. So that's what I have to say.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ido.
So yes. So you read documentation to consult. That is when you fall into problem and you're having some errors and you don't know how to go about it. Then you fall back to documentation. You wouldn't want to read documentation to learn SQL, for example. Now you wouldn't want to read documentation because look at I have my own documentation. My SQL that is over 6,000 pages. Is that what you want to sit down and read it? It's going to bore you. It's going to bore you. You won't want to read. So it's when you're writing your so they are just as a data analyst, for example, now they are just some a fraction. Maybe it's like maybe 1/16 of what is inside documentation. Maybe that's what's in it. Maybe it's 1/32. But you just having the whole documentation of my SQL. Are you the one that created my SQL? No, you are not the one that created my SQL. Even the people that created SQL, they cannot read my SQL, carry my SQL documentation and start reading it from the to They don't understand. So you can't carry maybe a particular application like maybe over 100 people did, maybe over 1,000 people did, and you want to download it in your own head at the same time. So you won't want to do that. You won't want to do that. All right. So in just 15 minutes, because I don't want to waste much of our time. Maybe Saido can tell us about ETL process. So just 15 minutes,
Okay.
or maybe less. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Please give me. I'm coming. Give me 1 minute.
So before our industry experts come back to join us. So the site I sent earlier, you can see, if you see there, you see different databases that they are using for their the tutorial of the thing. So you can take this database, you can put it in your own. Maybe you have MySQL installed on your local computer. You can copy. So you can copy these tables.
Hello?
Okay. All right. You can continue.
Oh, all right. So I'm sorry for the break. The call came in. So ETL. So ETL is a stands for extract, transform, and load. And so for you to have a successful ETL process, you have what they call your source. Outside the industry, when you're working with data, you want your source data source is always like maybe a flat file, Excel, or something like that. But when you get to the industry, you always have what they call our source. Where are we extracting from? And there are a lot of data sources that we can extract data from, and each data source has its own way of extracting. If you're extracting data from a big data warehouse, say an HDFS file system, it's different from when you're extracting from maybe a web server log page, or you are extracting from a relational database, and each database has their own configuration, starting from if you're extracting from, say, Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, MongoDB, among others. So the first thing that's always needed is when you get to your source, then you need to have what they call your connection string. You being able to connect to that data source. That is a technical thing that lies in all ETL process. And if you're connecting any tool to a data source, depending on the data source you are connecting to, you need to have the corresponding connection string. Like for instance, now, if you want to connect, if you are using, say, SSIS is a tool that is SQL Server Integration Service for extracting data, and it also runs like .NET framework. If you want to use it to extract data from, say, MySQL, you need to have the corresponding connection string to MySQL. Now, this looks like story. Let me bring it to a layman. If you want to access a room in your house, a 10-room building, and you want to access a particular room, you need to have, first thing you need to have is, what is the room number? So the room number is like the connection string. Whereas the key to that is the password and the username, or maybe the server name and the port name, something like that. So there's always a part of you having data source, you have your connection string, and that will aid you in connecting to the database. So after you connect that, that's why I now said something when I was starting, that you need to have what they call your staging, extract. When you connect to a data source, you need to extract it. So you extract with your basic select statement. So you extract it. So if you're extracting a relational database, you just use select statement. But all other data source has their corresponding way of selecting. So when you select the data you want to extract, you need to extract it to a particular environment called the staging. So that is why that in that process, you are taking it away from the data source and you are bringing it to your own destination database. So when you have it on your destination database, now you have it in your own environment. So from there, we can manipulate and transform it. So when you on the staging, you now do a lot of manipulation, you do data cleaning, you remove outliers, okay, you remove duplicates, you do aggregation. After doing the transformation on the staging, then you can now load into a platform called your analytic data store, or what they call a data warehouse. So it is a process that is always necessary in all data analytics. So you keep hearing ETL. And the three components of ETL, you have your data source, you have your staging database, and you have your analytic data store. So those are the three guys that manages the ETL process, or that warehouses of the data in transit. And the technology is you getting a connection string that communicates between all of your databases, starting from your ADS, your staging, your data source, regardless of any data source you're pulling from, to your staging and your analytics stores. So with that, you are ready for analytics. So there are a lot of tools that can be used for ETL. If you're connecting like server, like say, if your data source and your destination, if they are the same databases, it is always easy for you to connect and extract data. You just need to know how you communicate those two databases. For instance, now for MySQL, if you are connecting two MySQL tables together, there's something they call federated table to connect two databases together. You want to connect one MySQL, and maybe you have MySQL on server A and you have another MySQL on server B, and you want to connect the two, whereby you want to extract from server A to server B. You create a federated table With that, you can create a copy and extract to server B. So from server B, you do your transformation. Maybe from there, you export to server C, which is the ADS. That is for lifetimes. And same architecture for Oracle. In Oracle is a bit more simpler. You use what they call DB link, database link. Or if you are working with Microsoft Server, you make use of what they call database. They call linked server. Oracle make use of DB link. Microsoft Server makes use of linked server. So you can link a server. You can link your data source. You can extract data directly from your data source to the staging environment. One general tool that me I'm used to for ETL is SSIS, developed by Microsoft. It's a tool that supports .NET framework, and with that you can connect to any database with little C# code, and you're able to extract. And with that you can easily deploy it to your server, provided your host server is or your host DB is a Microsoft server, because I know we've done a lot of deployments from Visual Studio, like SSIS, using Visual Studio on Microsoft server. So and that's the basic architecture. You can decide on the way to do it, but it's very flexible, and I can tell you nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. So the ETL process, nothing, you should understand that nothing is impossible. You can do anything you feel like, anything. There was one of our data engineer. He told we are discussing about one of the projects he handled, whereby they need to extract data from a server in Egypt. So they are extracting from a server in Egypt, and the data is a zip file. So you need to go to the server, you look for your own file. After you look for it, you extract it. After extract it, you load it to your own database. So ETL process can be very complex, and most of the time it is the data engineers that manages the ETL process of the analytic process. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Mr. Edward. Um, I think the guys that are here currently, they are data analysts, data scientists. So they might not be really in the ETL process. Or your ETL process. They just, so you don't need to, if you're a data scientist or data analyst, you don't need to really bother yourself with all those but it's good to have a knowledge of it, but you don't really need to bother yourself. So it's just that your own job is just get the data. So where are the data? Where did they like get the data? They answer the questions you are given and the rest of that. So thank you again for today. I think we really learned a lot, and it's actually a great session. So so before we wrap up today's session, I don't know whether Eriola and Richard have anything to say as we guys start.
Just want to say thank you to Mr. for sharing his better experience with us today. Thanks so much for your time, sir. And thank you, Mr. Emmanuel, for organizing this.
Eriola, would you like to say something to us? Your microphone is still on mute. Maybe you need to unmute your microphone. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with mic. So, sorry, thanks once again. Really appreciate your time. So, we will just call it a day. So, next time, that's tomorrow, we're also meeting the same time. So another industry expert is going to join us tomorrow.